For me, especially as an immigrant, when I think about building technology, I think about building technology that's going to create on-ramps to the American dream for people.
Wow.
And being able to kind of empower that for a lot of these small business owners has been incredible.
Howdy, y'all. I'm Elizabeth Gore. Welcome to The Big Idea from Yahoo Finance, the show that navigates the world of small business and entrepreneurship. All businesses start with one light bulb moment, and I'm going to take you on a journey with America's entrepreneurs. As the co-founder of the small business funding platform, Hello Alice, it has always been my mission to help ensure entrepreneurs have the tools they need to live the American dream. We're going to get between the spreadsheets with these operators to flow from their smallest failures to their biggest successes. So let's cowboy up. Today's big idea question is, how do I monetize my hobbies? I wish I could monetize fishing. Our industry focus will be collectibles. Joining me today is Drip Shop CEO Javon Lawrence. A Jamaican immigrant who moved to the U.S. at age 10, Javon found a passion for trading Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh cards early on. The hobby eventually inspired Drip Shop, an online live shopping platform where users buy, sell, and stream collectibles with their communities. With his innovative spirit and entrepreneurial drive, there's no one better to tackle today's big idea question: how do I monetize my hobbies? Let's welcome my little brother, Javon. I can't believe you're here, Javon. I mean, my little brother.
Yeah.
I can't even believe you're here.
Yeah.
We know each other really well, so we just dig in.
Yeah.
And I have learned so much from you in a world of collectibles, of trading, monetizing your hobbies. Tell me about Drip.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, first of all, Liz, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor to be on this show. I've heard really great things and seen some episodes, and so it's a real honor to be here. So yeah, a bit more about Drip. So we are a live and social selling platform focused on collectibles. So that could be anything from Pokemon cards to sports cards, Funko Pops, or any type of hobbyist product that people are deeply passionate about.
How did this path happen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So maybe I'll take a bit step back and tell a bit about my narrative and my background. I moved here when I was 10 from Jamaica. Felt like I won the lottery when I moved here. I moved to South Florida. And a huge part of my Americanization kind of experience was watching anime. And then, from different anime like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Dragon Ball Z, and then from those anime actually starting to play the card games that were associated with them. So first started with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, so would battle Yu-Gi-Oh cards with my neighbors, and then from there would trade up the Yu-Gi-Oh cards for Pokemon cards. And that became a huge part of how I actually built community and friendships when I first came to the country. And I kept the hobby up for quite some time, up until high school. Then I got really into math more, and so started, stopped, and then re-entered the hobby during COVID. And I'll obviously talk a bit more about that later on.
Now, you were in venture capital. You've been in management consulting, but we talked about the big idea. What was that? I'm actually going to take a risk here and start this company. Tell me that moment.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, starting Drip was really a culmination of lots of different interests, right? So obviously it started with the collectibles interest. And then I also had a deep interest, in college and social commerce. So I started a few companies in college. A few of them were social commerce companies. And then, fast forward to during COVID, I got back interested in collecting Pokemon cards because there's not much to do, right?
Yeah.
Everyone was in their home. So I spent a lot of time just exploring and getting back into Pokemon cards. And, even though there were lots of different intellectual things and kind of passion things that kind of really got me interested, what ended up happening was I joined a Facebook group. Mm-hmm. It's called the Pokemon Collectors. And I saw that there's a guy named Kenny Martinez that was hosting a live stream. And I remember this live stream was going to be on Saturday at 11:30 p.m. And my co-founder, Samip, at the time had just gotten married. And I said, hey, let's watch the stream. We watched the stream together, and we just saw how excited everyone was.
Really?
They were purchasing, they were chatting, and, they were doing all this despite the fact that the core experience was actually pretty broken, right? So Facebook was just not built for live selling, right? So the seller would actually collect Venmo payments from buyers.
Oh, wow.
Confirm the payments, and then what he would do something called a rip and ship. He'd basically take each Pokemon card and rip it open, and then basically show the packs on screen and then mail it to the consumer.
Wow.
So there was a lot of friction in the experience, but what we saw was that people were still spending a tremendous amount in this, and a huge part of that was for the community, but it was also because they were just so interested in the hobby.
Wow.
So for us, that was the aha moment that there was something really, really interesting here. And then from there, we actually started to build our product. This was in late 2020. We started building in January 2021, and we launched the product in April 2021.
Wow. So our big idea question today is, how do you monetize your hobbies, right? And you're passionate and you love something, but you're such an interesting person because you're great at math.
Yep.
I'm not, but you have this like deep engaging personality.
Yep.
And you always are on the forefront of what's the next AI, what's the next tech. I feel like you put all that in the blender, right? And came up with this amazing concept.
Yeah.
So I want to first talk about if a small business owner sees something and they're like, I think I can do that better. Mm-hmm. I think I can make that experience better. Like, what is that first step that you would tell them? Like, what did you and your co-founder be like? Okay, we're going to create an MVP here. Like, tell me that first step.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first step for us was, after seeing the aha moment, and especially within technology, what really matters is getting an insight that you think could actually turn into a very, very large idea. Mm-hmm. So once you've actually, seen and validated the opportunity space that you're in, the next step is then thinking about how you actually go about building your product, right? And with my co-founder, and CTO Samip, we ended up we've been working and cranking on different ideas for a while. We had a team in place. And so we were able to actually start building that initial product. That was a very different time. This was in 2021 when AI and all these different tools weren't around.
Right,
so
the whole world has changed.
Yeah. So we spent quite a bit of time building out an MVP. I think in this day and age, you could probably build out an MVP of a product if you're building something in technology relatively quickly,
mm-hmm.
which
and
is
cheaper too. Is that a fair statement?
And far cheaper, right? So you can use, there are lots of different technology tools out there like Replit or Vercel that you can use and prototype something very easily. Mm-hmm. In live streaming, that's a little bit more technically difficult, but I think for the vast majority of products that people would want to build, especially if it's in technology, if it's just a simple website, you can build that very, very quickly.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned AI. Mm-hmm. However, the thing that's always touched me about both you as a human and then Drip is it is such a human connection.
Yep.
That it seems like AI will never replace. Like, these people want to engage with each other.
Yeah.
Tell me how, you built this great technology, but how do you foster the community? And why is that important?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? So, the reality is that, especially now in this AI age, as, there's a lot more content being created, right? Whether or not it's websites or it's, even short videos or photos. It's, I think what's going to start to happen is that there's going to be a stronger desire for human connection. Mm-hmm. And, with live stream commerce and, what we're really doing is like we're enabling and empowering these live sellers who are really, they're small business owners that are great at cultivating large-scale communities.
Right.
And those communities, are hanging out and talking about their different hobbies. And, I think what's really interesting, especially about collectibles, is that collectibles is like one of those things where maybe not everyone is actually interested. Maybe someone, if you're interested in collecting Pokemon cards or collecting Magic cards or something, it may not be something that is very popular. I think it's gotten more popular over the last few years. Labobos is becoming popular. Pokemon's a lot more popular now. But for most consumers, it actually is like kind of a lonely experience. And so most people, they usually have a few options to connect. Right. One option is like usually go to card shows, and in any given city there are tens of card shows that are happening each month.
And then you're walking into a physical space.
You're walking into a physical space. You go to a card shop, or you go into like a Facebook group or social media.
Okay.
But what our platform does is it enables and empowers a lot of these live sellers to cultivate communities of people that can get together and basically convene and talk about their hobby and also make transactions as a part of that process.
I think that's so beautiful. And I've heard you say we're kind of the Shopify of trading. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'd love for you to explain that on how folks actually make money, you small business owners. But I do think you have such a huge layer of humanity around it that's not in other platforms. But tell me how the small business owners actually come on and monetize.
Yeah, it's a great question. So the way that small business owners come on and monetize is very similar to any other marketplace like Amazon or eBay, right? Mm-hmm. So they usually are purchasing this product secondhand. and then they're coming on and selling that product at a margin. And our business, we take a percentage of each of those transactions, and then those business owners will also be able to make a meaningful margin. And I think the great thing that we've seen so far on the platform is like we've been able to drive over $100 million in sales and money back in the pockets of these small business owners.
I love that.
Which for me, especially as an immigrant, like when I think about building technology, I think about building technology that's going to create on-ramps to the American dream for people.
Wow.
And being able to kind of empower that for a lot of these small business owners has been incredible.
You are an on-ramp to the American dream, by the way. I mean, all the way.
I'm just trying to pay this country back for the great things it's given me.
Oh. All right, Javon, hold that thought. We got to go on a quick break, and we'll be back on The Big Idea. Howdy, welcome back. We are here with Javon Lawrence talking drip shop and collectibles. So I only think of you as success. But we all have our mistakes, and we try to be honest on the show with our dirty unicorns.
Yep.
So give me one of yours, like something you've learned from.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I mean, as an entrepreneur, obviously you make a lot of mistakes. Yeah. That's kind of
our thing.
Yeah, it's kind of part of the game.
9 before breakfast.
Yeah, exactly. But I think I'd also say that I've been extremely fortunate. And so I have a little bit of a bias from just being grateful. But I think one of the biggest dirty unicorns that I've had was probably not starting this company sooner.
Oh, really?
Yeah, not launching in this market sooner. So. Did you have the opportunity and you passed it up? Yeah. So I had the components that I needed to kind of get it going. So I had the insight. I'd been thinking about this space, probably since I was in college, frankly. I was thinking about the space in college. I'd seen the opportunity kind of start to spark up in 2019. And I also had access to, I was fortunate because of, the different roles I'd taken on throughout my career to where I would have been able to easily access the capital to at least start.
Got it. Okay.
And I didn't get started soon enough. And I think the reason why that mattered a lot is that, I think our core market, which is, live shopping, there was like a window between, I would say early 2021 and 2022, where if you took the right set of actions, you could have actually built a multi-billion-dollar business. Like we're $100+ million business. Mm-hmm. That's great, but I'm an immigrant. I have to. I
want to keep going.
I want to keep going, and so in that moment, what really mattered was having a product in market and being able to gobble up the kind of the few hundred live selling talent that were key to seeding market.
Okay, the reason I appreciate you saying that is so many business owners have a day job.
Yep.
Or they have something, and a constant question we get is, how do I know when to start? How do I know when to start? And, there's never the perfect time. I mean, what would you say based on that learning to someone of how do I know when to start?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think you know when to start as soon as you feel like you start having the insight, right?
Okay.
And again, I think that the delta now that's very different, 4 or 5 years ago, back in my day when I was just starting out, right? Like
hence my little brother.
Yeah. When we were first starting out, a lot of this technology was just not available, right? Mm-hmm. So to start, if you think about the things that you need to start up a business, like you need to have a deep understanding of some sort of insight for some value that you can create for the market, right? But after that, there are like lots of different hurdles you have to incorporate. You have to do marketing, you have to do sales, you have to build a website, all these things. And in this day and age, you can do those things very, very quickly, right? With AI, you can spin up a website and very quickly, very cheaply. Within an hour, you can spin up a website for your business. You could start running your first set of marketing campaigns on social channels exceptionally fast. I think the thing that actually matters a lot more in building companies now as an entrepreneur is really being embedded in the communities that you're building for.
Oh, interesting.
Right?
Okay.
And the reason why that's starting to become really, really important is because, again, if you can spin up a website and spin up your first set of marketing campaigns in an hour for your business, so can many other people.
Fair point.
The differentiator starts to become, how are you able to facilitate human connection in meaningful ways? right? And then and I think a big way to do that is to start thinking about, hey, how do I embed myself in the communities I'm building for? And, not only does that allow you to kind of deepen your insight and your understanding of the problem that you're trying to solve, but it also allows you as an entrepreneur to then start to, figure out how to iterate very, very quickly.
Got it.
On
Okay.
things. So maybe you build something first, an offering first, and then you get feedback. You can iterate and build again, keep on building from that community feedback. But then the other thing that becomes really valuable is that then you can start thinking about building your own community, right? And then start to facilitate connections between people within that community.
Which is so ironic because that's literally what your platform does.
Exactly. So I may have a bit of a bias towards that.
No, it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's
but
amazing.
I do think that that is becoming increasingly important, especially in a world where technology and a lot of kind of know-how becomes a lot easier to access than it ever was before. So I think facilitating human connection starts to become a really, really important seeding point for building, not only a company, but over time, a brand.
So you keep talking about human connection. So you and I share a spiritual connection.
Yep.
We pass scripture back and forth.
Yeah.
We pray for each other.
Yeah.
And you work really hard and you take care of a lot of people and your family. And can you just tell me just for a second, I mean, how do you pull your spirituality through your business?
Wow, that's a great question. And a question I didn't think I'd have to answer, but I do think it's a great question.
I just threw that on you as someone who knows you too well.
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, so spirituality is super important for me. I think, from my own deep personal experience, being born to a teenage mom, premature, coming from a third world country, I have a deep fundamental belief in God, right? I don't think I would be here without God's mercy and God's grace. And I think a huge part of, the way I view things is that, God has blessed me so much, right? And, as a result of him blessing me so much, I have a deep responsibility to bless as many people as possible. And that's why, I say that a huge part of my fundamental, kind of ambition as an entrepreneur is to create on-ramps for the American dream. And a lot of that is deeply rooted in the gratitude I have towards, God for where he's taking me in my life.
And what's so interesting is when I really was learning about your company, you're just fostering relationships with people that are isolated, and everyone thinks like trading and collectibles, but you're really fostering community.
Yep.
And I'm just so touched by that. And let me ask you, for the small business owner who is sitting there and says, I am really good at something. I teased earlier that I wish I could monetize fishing because you know how much I love to fish.
Yeah.
What are the 3 steps to say, okay, I'm actually going to give this a shot?
Yep.
Not the technical steps, the founder steps.
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I mentioned before, I think the first thing is just embedding yourself in whatever community or customer set that you want to go after. I think it's really, really important to deeply understand and empathize for your customer, right? That's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would think about doing is start to figure out what are the problems that those customers have, right? And do whatever you can to solve those problems.
Okay.
Right? And doing that, not only are you able to learn meaningfully, but you're also able to build relationships with those customers that will help you to iterate towards that idea later on. And then, I think within that kind of understanding that problem space, you also want to get a sense of, is it large enough? And depending on what your ambition is, for some entrepreneurs, it may make sense, I want to build, a business that allows me to make a few $1 million a year, right? And maybe the opportunity doesn't have to be that large at that point, but think about how large it needs to be for you. And then I think the third thing that really, really starts to matter is start to think about how you actually will build the team that you need around getting this idea to work. So again, what starts to matter now, especially as a lot of the know-how starts becoming deeply abstracted away, what starts to matter is building a team of people that are deeply curious, that are hungry, and that are willing to continuously learn with you along the way. And so I think it's very, very important, as you're starting out, to start thinking about those three elements, right? So it's, embedding yourself in the community for the customers you think are important. Then it's working with those customers to solve their problems, understanding how large those problems are depending on your ambition. And then the third thing is then start to think about the team that you want to build around you.
Such
to
great
scale
advice.
that idea out.
Amazing advice. So I have a last question.
Yeah, sure
What is your favorite thing you've ever collected? I've never asked you this, and I'm so curious.
Oh, that's a great question.
Do you have like this one thing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So obviously I have a ton of Pokemon cards. I have some in my backpack now, and I usually bring them and give them as gifts to friends and stuff like that. I definitely should give some of your kids some of my cards, actually. But one of my favorite things I've collected is I bought this old print from a Frenchman, an older Frenchman who. He bought it in France in 1960. It's an old print of the Crimean War. So it's like a set of French troops standing in front of a library in France, in front of the during the Crimean War, and it's like a very, very large print. It's actually like in my apartment. It's like in a small section of my apartment, but it's my favorite thing I've collected because of the deep history behind it.
Right.
And it is like literally it is. Kind of, I need to do some work to preserve it as well. But there's a deep amount of history behind it, which, I'm deeply passionate about history. And, it's like something that like I think I will hold for a very long time and potentially pass it on to my kids.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I love you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on and teaching us so much.
Yeah.
You're the best.
Yeah.
Thanks
for having me.
At the end of each episode, I like to give a shout out to a small business who is doing amazing work. Today, I'd like to shout out one of Javon's favorites, Radiant Forge. Radiant Forge, a.k.a. Kenneth Nelson, is a streamer on Drip who sells Pokemon cards. From a small farm town in Illinois, Forge serves in the Army National Guard as a sergeant first class and has served for 12 years. Thank you, sir, for your service. He started streaming on Drip after his daughter became interested in Pokemon cards. His business continues to grow, and you can check him out at Radiant Forge TCG on Drip Shop Live. Thank you, Javon, for coming on the show, and thank all of you for joining us. We hope you've learned a lot. Please make sure to scan the QR code below to follow Yahoo Finance podcasts or check us out at The Big Idea wherever you get your podcasts. You can also come say howdy to me on any of my social channels at Elizabeth Gore USA. I'm Elizabeth Gore, and as my grandmother always said, hold your head up high and give them hell. See you soon.
This content was not intended to be financial advice and should not be used as a substitute for professional financial services.